I invite you please to be seated as I invite Johnny Mercer to speak by way of tribute to Dennis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, serving personnel, veteran, friends and family. Welcome. We gather today to remember a great man. I want to pay him a fulsome tribute. I want to pay tribute to his family. I want to remember and pay tribute to his service to this nation. And I want to pay tribute to what he represented both in his life and in his passing. First today, let me address Dennis's family, with whom we are all deeply privileged to meet together today. To mourn a loving partner, a devoted father, a doting grandfather, and indeed great-grandfather. To Kim, John, Dawn, Sharon, and all the family, I would say this. I know that the last few years has, at times, felt lonely. I do not intend to speak today for why that was. But let me ask you just to look around you today. Look at what Dennis meant. Look at the efforts of those who are gathered here today from across this country to remember a great man. Look at these things and know how much Dennis was loved. How much his service was remembered and respected. And feel the love of a grateful nation. Not only for Dennis, but for you as well. Service families are too often overlooked, but you serve too. And I want to acknowledge that today. And say that in your moments of grief, we are here with you, to support you, to love you, not just today and tomorrow, but whatever the future may bring. That's how Dennis looked after people, and so we will look after you in exactly the same manner. For Dennis Hutchings was a good man who lived a good life, who did as he would be done by, the quintessential British senior non-commissioned officer. Dennis Hutchings was born in Cramlington, Northumberland, on the 7th of May in 1941. His father worked down the local coal mine, and the family lived in a colliery-owned house. But when his father lost his job in 1945, the family had to move to a different mine where they did not qualify for a colliery home. And so Dennis grew up in a disused army camp, living in an old Nissen hut without the basic amenities of a modern life. He went to school until the age of 15, when he left without any qualifications and followed his father down the local mine at Crofton Mill Colliery. One of Dennis's friends, who had left home to join the Royal Navy, kept writing to him, telling him how great service life was. In the end, Dennis made the trip to the recruiting office in Newcastle. But unable to find the naval recruiting office, he went to the army recruiting office to ask for directions. He signed up there and then for the 15th 19th King's Royal Hussars. He gave his written notice to the mining company on the back of a fag packet. But whilst working his notice period at the colliery, on that night shift, his father woke him one day, mid-morning, to say that someone was at the door and wanted to see him. The man at the door was 6'2" and immaculately dressed. "I hear you've signed up for the 15th 19th King's Royal Hussars," the man said. "But look, I don't want you to join them. I want you to join my regiment, the Life Guards, instead." Dennis replied that simply would not work because he couldn't swim. The man corrected him. He outlined the glories of life in the Guards, of being based in Windsor and the regiment's deployment at that time to Aden. Dennis was sold. He changed his regimental preference and he joined the Life Guards. The following week he caught the train to London, and after reporting for duty at the wrong barracks, nearly joining the Irish Guards, he started his training at Cumbermere Barracks in Winchester with the lifeguards. When Dennis passed out of training, he did tours of Aden, Cyprus and Germany. He became a physical training instructor with a slightly unique style of taking the troops for runs whilst he pedalled alongside on his bicycle. One day the soldiers stole his bicycle and hid it in the bushes, thinking they would have a far easier session. Dennis ran them twice as far and twice as fast, and they gave it back immediately. Dennis was married on the 23rd of December 1960. He had 3 young children who accompanied him on a Far East tour of Malaya, Singapore, Borneo and Hong Kong. In 1969, he embarked on the first of 5 tours of Northern Ireland over the following 10 years. On one of these tours in June 1974, Dennis was awarded for gallantry. He led a foot patrol that arrested 6 individuals in what became known as the Eaglish incident. Following a firefight and seizure of a significant cache of arms and ammunition, Dennis discovered the 6 culprits being hidden by a priest in a nearby cottage and promptly arrested them all. He was so thorough, he even handcuffed the priest for lying until the RUC turned up and told him it wasn't a good look. Dennis left the army in 1985. He joined a local recruitment company called Rocco, where he formed a great friendship with the owner, Dave Scanlon, which continues to this day. But in that very Dennis way, convinced he could do a better job if he was on his own, he started Special Events Security Services Limited, which became incredibly successful, and he sold it to G4S in 2007, at which point he semi-retired. I say semi-retired because Dennis was always busy. He settled in Cornwall with his beloved partner Kim, continuing some security work, for example, at Epsom Racecourse, where he used to take Kim and enjoyed many happy summer days with her. He threw himself into his beloved Corsand as well. A huge member of the community, he was always going to take it badly when he became the only member in the village to fail his audition to be in the Rain Male Voice Choir. But all these tales don't really do Dennis justice. The hundreds of stories I've been told of his kindness, his care, and his courage paint a picture of the man we all knew. He loved the people of Northern Ireland. He set up a business there. Catholic or Protestant, Unionist or Nationalist, he didn't care. He employed local people, and he cared deeply about the local community. When the protection rackets came knocking of either persuasion, he told them to get stuffed and that he would give money to local charities instead, because he was a fair man. He was compassionate. He was the very opposite of how those who would wish to rewrite history would portray him. He was, as the British military officer described him only last month in a courtroom in Belfast, in my nearly 50 years of service with and association with the UK's armed forces, if you were to ask me of the best example of the British non-commissioned officer, the name of Dennis Hutchings would immediately spring to my mind. In a contested field, that is some attribute. But I wanted to finish today by saying some things I know Dennis would want me to say to you who are gathered here today. But I don't say them for Dennis, I say them to Dennis as well. Indeed, I did many times when he was alive, and especially repeated them to him in the last few months of his life whilst we whiled away the time in Belfast. I know that his military service in Northern Ireland and that of his friends meant a great deal to him. I know that it also means a huge amount to the many veterans and the wider British military family who are gathered here today. I must tell you that I am not proud of how we currently remember those who served in that appalling conflict trying to prevent a bloody civil war. We can be too quick to forget, or indeed cowed by the rewriting of history into some sort of misplaced shame, of the awesome sacrifice and service of our veterans. in trying to keep the peace in Northern Ireland. And I know that these feelings can intensify when we see the grotesque spectacle of what happened to Dennis in a Belfast court. And I know that many of you find that particularly difficult to deal with. It's made a tough transition back to ordinary day-to-day life in a peaceful nation even harder for you. For some, that continues to this day. So today, I want to set the record straight. To both you and Dennis and his family, in what I ideally hope will bring some comfort in your private grief after what has been a very difficult time played out in public. I know this nation. I've fought for this nation. I've sought elected office in it. I know this nation well above the ebb and flow of changing attitudes, transitory governments, and enfeebled politicians. I know this nation, and I say this to all Northern Ireland veterans who are gathered here today. This nation loves you. This nation is deeply proud of you. Your service in Northern Ireland commands the profound respect of this nation. For your service, it cannot be erased. History cannot be rewritten. For the things that matter, the things that stand the test of time, your courage, your humanity, all personified in the man we get together to remember today. So rest in peace, Dennis Hutchings. You earned it. See you at the Valhalla.